Hi, Timothy Carlson here. As you probably know if you've watched this channel for any length of time, I'm a film fan, and for that reason, I certainly love going back in time and looking at the history of film, including things from a slightly more obscure angle that I might have missed before or been unaware of. Kino Lorber certainly pulled out all the stops this past February being Black History Month, and one of the releases they gave us during this time was this. This is Oscar Micheaux, the superhero of black filmmaking. Brief disclaimer, this disc was provided to me by Kino Lorber, but that will have no bearing on my opinions in this review whatsoever. So as usual, I'm going to unbox this release and share my opinions. Here's a close-up of Micheaux with his camera. Simple and to the point, I like the way that looks. Here's our spine text. Back cover. Inside the case, we get an ad for Kino Film, and then on this side we have an ad for something called MHZ Choice. And here is the DVD disc itself. This was only released on DVD. There is no Blu-ray release, unfortunately. Oscar Micheaux was the most influential African-American filmmaker of the first half of the 20th century. A self-taught artist who funded, produced, and released more than 40 films, all while completely excluded from the Hollywood systems of production and distribution. Francesco Zippel's revealing documentary, which premiered at the 2021 Cannes Film Festival, charts Micheaux's incredible artistic journey as he followed the urban migration to Chicago, abandoned city life to become a homesteader in South Dakota, and eventually became a resolute storyteller, writing 6 novels and producing dozens of feature films before his death in 1951. Regardless of the genre in which he was working, Micheaux's provocative films served as a powerful rebuke to the ubiquitous racism of the times. In Oscar Micheaux, the superhero of black filmmaking, a chorus of experts and fans, from Chuck D to Melvin Van Peebles, weigh in on the legacy of the man whose cinema scholar Jacqueline Stewart describes as the most important black filmmaker who ever lived, period. So I do have to confess, I had no idea who Oscar Micheaux was prior to picking up this release from Kino, and after having read a little bit about this guy, I was fascinated and certainly hooked and definitely wanted to watch this documentary. I mean, the guy was like the first successful black filmmaker. He was also like the first successful independent filmmaker, and he gave opportunities to a lot of people to be in the cast and crew of films who might not have otherwise gotten that opportunity. I mean, just the description of the guy is fascinating. And I have to say, this documentary, Oscar Micheaux, the superhero of black filmmaking, absolutely does not disappoint. The documentary does feature footage from several of Micheaux's films. Sadly, like a lot of artists of his era, many of these films have been permanently lost. This film also includes footage of the places where Micheaux lived and engaged in a lot of his adventures over the years. It talks about his becoming an author and basically being self-published and making deals to sell his movies and books and to have them shown. It's kind of interesting that he was able to get his films shown in white theaters after hours, but you got to do what you got to do to get distribution out there. And the man was certainly a genius and certainly ahead of his time. There's also a who's who of folks who were interviewed for this documentary, including the likes of late filmmaker John Singleton and legendary actor Morgan Freeman. And everyone certainly has a lot to say. If there was no Oscar Micheaux, I mean, there certainly would be no John Singleton, there would be no Spike Lee. A lot of the famed black filmmakers on both sides of the camera certainly owe a debt of gratitude to Oscar Micheaux. And I have to say, this is a very well put together documentary. It clocks in at only about 85 minutes or so, and despite that, it packs a ton of information to its runtime. And I think anyone at all who is a film enthusiast and is interested in learning more about the history of film should certainly learn more about Oscar Micheaux and his contributions, and this is a fantastic place to start. As far as picture quality on this DVD disc goes, the newly filmed footage does look very good. Understandably, the archival footage, most of which is taken from Micheaux's films, is in varying conditions, so that stuff generally isn't going to look the best, but for the most part, it's certainly presentable and does look pretty good. For bonus features, we do get an extended interview with filmmaker Kevin Wilmot, but then we also get 4 trailers for other Oscar Micheaux films. So I have to say, if you can get your hands on this disc and you're interested in learning more about filmmakers, visionaries, trailblazers, and everything in between, this documentary on Oscar Micheaux comes very highly recommended. Definitely pick this one up if you're a film fan. How about you? What do you think of the filmmaking of Oscar Micheaux? Is this someone that you've heard of before? Have you seen any of his movies? Are you going to check out this documentary? Comment down below and let me know what you think. Also, remember to subscribe to this channel for more content. I'm always posting new videos, and make sure to give this one a like if you found it helpful. I'm Taylor T. Carlson. See you next time.